Director, Office Managing Partner, KPMG India, Mr. Naveen Agarwal on the stage.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the session. I know I'm standing between you and the lunch for this panel, so hopefully we'll try and keep it interesting and engaging for the next 45 minutes or so. My name is Naveen Agarwal. I'm the Office Managing Partner for the Delhi NCR region of KPMG in India. Um, I would like to welcome all the panelists and distinguished guests for the second day and the afternoon session of the India Mobile Congress. This is an important session on future digital infrastructure for Viksit Bharat. And I think as KPMG, as a firm, we've been associated with IMC for a long time. We've been partnering on this, and I'm proud to say that with every year, this congregation of the industry keeps getting bigger, and our partnership with IMC keeps getting stronger. We are at the, it's no gainsaying that we are at the cusp of a digital revolution. There is going to be there is already a transformative shift in how we operate, live, and build a more connected and inclusive India. With all the government's initiative that we've seen on Viksit Bharat, digital infrastructure is poised to become a backbone for the future. And I think when you look at both technology and standards, which is the confluence that we're seeing today, with the telecommunication standards assembly being held in Asia for the first time, that's going to India is going to lead the way in establishing a global technology framework. So some of the numbers that all of you would have heard of and which are telling in context of India's journey. If you look at internet, we have about 1.16 million subscribers, 940 odd million broadband connections, which has grown from 60 million about 10 years ago, which is highest consumption at the lowest cost. If you look at payments, we're currently handling about 15 billion transactions amounting to $275 billion a month. 30 plus countries which are either adopting or in early discussions of adopting and implementing UPI and Aadhaar. If you look at 5G rollout, launched in late 2022, today it covers about 98% of the cities, 80% plus of the population, 7,000 plus mobile towers established in the past 100 odd days. And we have the largest 5G market in the world. If you look at BharatNet, connecting 250,000 village panchayats to high-speed internet. By next year, it's expected to grow to more than 600,000 villages. Sorry, it's going to grow to 600,000 villages over the next few years. These numbers by itself signify the scale and magnitude that exists in this country. They're part of the larger ongoing digital revolution that is transforming how we live, how we work, and how we grow as a society. A case in point is India's digital stack, the world's first national digital infrastructure stack, where it brings, again, Aadhaar, UPI, and FASTag. If you look at all three together, that has enabled an additional value creation of close to 1% of India's GDP, which has a potential to grow by close to 3x to about 2.9 to 4.2% by 2030. So with all the speed and scale, it's no surprise that to say that it is not just India's decade, it's India's decade. And in fact, some would say this is India's century. Simply put, there's no other place, if you want to miss out today, where all the action is, it is out here. We could not have a better panel here to talk about how the proliferation of digital infrastructure can help build a vibrant and future tomorrow for India. So let me just welcome my panelists, and as I call them out and give a brief description, I would request them to come on the stage. Let me start by Mr. Manoj Kumar Singh, Director General of DIPA. Manoj is currently serving as the Director General of Digital Infrastructure Providers Association, brings with him a wealth of experience from his 2.5-decade tenure, including 16 years at Indus Towers, where he served in various leadership roles. Welcome, Manoj. I'd like to welcome Anand Chandel from RailTel. Anand is a General Manager, Value-Added Business at RailTel Corporation of India for over 20 years of experience in network operations and network rollout, working in several high-profile projects such as G20 and station Wi-Fi modernization, providing internet services to over 6,200 plus railway stations, amongst others. Welcome, Anand. Bhuvnesh Sachdeva, Senior Vice President of HFCL. Over 2 decades of experience, currently Senior Vice President, Business Development Head for the Communication Business Vertical at HFCL Limited. He steered various product lines and specializes in architectural, cutting-edge technologies, connectivity solutions, playing a pivotal role in setting up the IO product brand within HFCL. Welcome, Bhuvnesh. Sangeeta Patel, who was there on the dais a short while back, Chief Revenue Officer at Open Signal, a seasoned growth leader with over 2 decades of experience driving revenue and delivering impactful solutions, currently the Chief Revenue Officer and instrumental in delivering actionable targets, helping network operators optimize performance and improve connectivity worldwide. Welcome, Sangeeta. Pankaj Sharma, the President of EC India EdgeCore. Pankaj is the President of EdgeCore India, responsible for companies India and Indian subcontinent's vision and business growth. A telecom veteran with more than 30 years of varied experience in mobile and fixed broadband, business and technology development. Welcome, Pankaj. And last but not the least, Femi Oshiga, Vice President, Outdoor Wireless Network, Sales, APAC and MEA Common Scope. Femi has over 20 years experience and currently the Sales Vice President of the ComScope Outdoor Wireless Network portfolio servicing mobile network operators across MEA and APAC region. So welcome to all the panelists. So I thought the best way would be to structure this conversation around 2 or 3 broad themes. And the first theme that I thought we should pick up is really around looking at, the whole area around, looking at the future of digital infrastructure, more in the context of building, also looking at the last mile connectivity. So let me start with Manojji, your views. I mean, we're talking about Viksit Bharat in a country which is the fastest growing and today the second largest telecom market in the world. So if you could tell us, what is your vision of building a future-ready digital infrastructure in the country? And what are some of the key milestones that we as an industry should look forward to as we move in this journey of building a Viksit Bharat?
Thank you, Naveen, and thank you, audience sitting here. I could see very legendary faces sitting in the audience, so my sincere wishes to them. So when I say what is the vision for 2047 Viksit Bharat, so this is very easy to understand if we see certain milestones. We all say that we are world fastest, you can say, growing telephony. So nowadays, what we see as a digital infrastructure provider, that telecom itself is not a sector. It is itself is an infrastructure for all other industries. And when I say to industries, it has become an infrastructure to the every citizen of the country. Sorry. So the critical milestone which we have to really measure and cross is that digital connectivity should be the fundamental right of the each and every citizen of the country. It is something like electricity, water, and the digital connectivity. And any disruption in this digital connectivity should be seen as a non-billable offense. If you are depriving any individual from the digital connectivity, you are depriving of many other things. It is something like putting them to death. A very common vocabulary is being used nowadays is digital arrest. So something like that. And also the service providers who are actually into this, and you have heard many of the service providers yesterday and since last 1 week, that spam-free digital connectivity is the responsibility of the service provider to provide to the every citizen of the country. I'm just highlighting certain critical milestones because Naveen ji has asked me, so because that will set us to see that are we navigating to the vision which we have set for 2047 and whether we are progressively crossing those milestones or not. We keep on hearing skill development. My thoughts at deep are something different. Skill development of a developed individual is definitely important, but far more important is putting the digital literacy at a primary education level. Don't wait for the child to grow up and then go for the skill development. This is a fundamental right. How you, say for example, it is something like that, when a child grows up, and if he is male or a female, children used to teach them then how to remain safe into the society. It is similar to that. And on a lighter note, it is this digital primary education should be as simple that children should forget A for apple and B for banana. What they should remember? A for artificial intelligence, B for big data, C for connectivity or communication, and D for digital, something like that. So they should forget the traditional basic knowledge. And one of the critical milestones I was sharing with one of my team members in the morning, while this is at the citizen ends, there is a critical milestone for the government also to cross. And government has to become God. वैसे तो भगवान आज भी हैं वो, but now they have to become a real God. And what is that God is? Government at door. In the digital era, the critical milestone which has to be reached is that rather than the service seekers should go to the government to have the service, be it be passport, be it be license, be it be etc., somebody from the government should come to a door as a package of a box. Dear sir, what do you want? Do you want money? Do you want license? Do you want water connection? Do you want electricity connection, etc., etc.? And it is, just imagine, maybe I'm taking a little longer to speak, but imagine it is absolutely possible. When a smart postman could go to a village and provide plethora of services, why can't in the urban cities? And it completely reverse the game. Not only reducing the commute, etc., but also government becoming God. We had been two or three more critical milestones which comes to my mind is that we have heard of ubiquitous coverage. With this digital era, we have to be focusing on ubiquitous services. Up till now, the digital services has been enterprised. It has to be productized to a citizen of the country. Let's not look at what is being provided to the manufacturing or the other enterprise offices, what is being provided to the citizen of services, and that God will come to your doorstep and provide those services. What eventually all this will happen? This will already started, but definitely it will accelerate, and that is called de-urbanization. If through all these measures what I have said, we are able to achieve the de-urbanization, it solves all the problem. And rather basic one, which I said in the previous topic, ubiquitous services will help up to the extent all other problems which probably we are sitting in NCRs are facing. Already it is started, but it needs to be faster. And last but not the least, we have to understand, and at India we have to develop this concept. Entire world is talking sustainability, sustainability, sustainability. Please understand that no better sector than digital infrastructure or digital connectivity sector is a better example of sustainability. It can put the sustainability as such a forefront that many of the consequential outputs will make us carbon neutral. Commute will reduce, office spaces will reduce, functions will reduce. This itself, telecom digitalization is one of the biggest, if my mind goes, there is no other sector which can be becoming the biggest enabler of sustainability, achieving our final mission of zero carbon. Probably this comes to my top of the mind, critical milestone which need to be achieved, Naveenji. Over to you.
Thank you, Manojji. I think that's a great starting point, great foundation to several important things that you alluded upon. Digital literacy at the primary level, ubiquitous services, government as God, and sustainability as being a key driver for digital infrastructure. So thank you for this opening context. Let me move to Anand. Anand, and you're also playing, as at RailTel, you're playing an important role, pivotal role in providing, laying down the optic fiber, which is drawing connectivity between the urban and the rural part of the country, right, in a big way. So as you do that, and as the expansion continues to happen and the digitization continues to happen, could you talk us through some of the opportunities and challenges in implementing this high-speed internet connectivity to the underserved or to the rural areas of the country?
Thank you, Naveenji. and thank you IMC for having me here. Certainly, we come at a fourth place to provide broadband to rural households. So RailTel is providing FTTH connection mostly in the rural areas. Since we are near to around 1 lakh villages, the stations are in the 1 kilometer periphery, there are around 1 lakh villages. So RailTel is well poised to serve the underserved or the real Bharat, we can say, through the broadband connections. And certainly broadband or fixed wireless is actually way to go, because when we see the average consumption of data around the developed countries, it is around 600 GB. Whereas in India, the mobile data consumption is only 20 GB per subscriber. So there is a big gap, and I don't think the mobile operators can fulfill this gap. So having broadband to all the household, as Manoj sir said, is the need of the hour. And I think the broadband has to be now subsidized as any other services. Like earlier, we used to see the rationing of the grains, or still, I think there are schemes. So same way, broadband to rural households to be subsidized by the government and to be insured. And one more fact that we are in these 6,000 stations. We are already providing free Wi-Fi to all such villages. So these villagers are not without internet. Even if their data pack is finished or something like that, they can reach to stations and they can use the internet. So this is how RailTel is thinking to provide or help in Viksit Bharat using digitalization.
Right. Thank you, Anand. And I think that's a good segue to the next segment, which is about use of next-gen technologies. And I think to the point that Manojji mentioned about ubiquitous services, I think an important element of deployment of next-gen technology is really to the whole aspect of deurbanization, which is how do you ensure that consistent services are being provided using next-gen technology to ensure seamless quality across the nation. And from that perspective, my first question to you, Bhuvnesh, is that the government has made a lot of focus on the Make in India program. As you know, that has been a sort of a big driver to grow, to see the transformation that we're seeing across different sectors, but particularly in telecom. And I think Honorable Prime Minister yesterday also spoke about the fact that there are about 200 odd mobile manufacturing units in India. So specifically for telecom equipment manufacturing, how do you see the entire manufacturing prowess showing up, and especially in the context of our local R&D capabilities, where do you see the strides being made?
Thank you, Naveen, and thanks everyone for having me here. It's an honor to be part of this esteemed panel. One important statistic that we must look at right now, over and above what Naveen gave as part of his address. In 2014, when we initiated this Make in India initiative, the vision of our Honorable PM, India used to stand at 163rd position by World Bank as ease of doing business in a country, out of total 190 countries. So we were standing at 163rd position, providing ease of doing business in the country to outside world. 2020, World Bank did the same survey, and we were standing at 63rd. It's a good improvement, but still a long way to go. I'm sure today, if we do the same survey again, I don't have the recent data points, I'm sure we would have been in top 50. In my understanding, if we have to really be a global manufacturing hub, like China had been, we need to be among the top 10, at least top 10, if not top 5, by 2047, which is our target for being a Viksit Bharat. And I'm glad to say that we are heading towards that, and India becoming a manufacturing hub for many large multinationals is a sign of that. They are feeling more and more comfortable coming here and setting up the industry here. But that doesn't stop here. Just manufacturing in India is not really leading us to an Atmanirbhar Bharat or a Viksit Bharat. We are also heading towards focusing on quality than quantity. We saw that early days of China, they were more focused on quantity, and eventually they graduated to quality, and they became one of the global manufacturing hubs in the world. Political situation has changed, and geopolitical scenarios are not favoring them in whatever way. But if we try to learn by example, we need to make sure that while we are focusing on quality instead of quantity, we also have to develop our own technological strengths, not just inviting people from outside and just setting up manufacturing hubs. And government has been doing a great job in terms of that. They launched a PLI incentive scheme wherein they invited people to come and set up production houses, and they offered production linked incentives. They offered DLI schemes also, where they are incentivizing those firms even higher who are doing design also in India. So design linked incentive is slightly higher than what PLI is. And that's government way of helping the industry to do more technological innovations here in the country. And I'm glad to see there are more than 1,000 startups here in this IMC this year, which is probably the largest ever we have seen in an IMC. And that gives us that gives a boost to the manufacturing infrastructure that is being deployed by multinationals. Now even Indian companies are becoming in the same line, and they are following up in the same manner. And I strongly believe that with the boost from the government in terms of PLI and DLI incentives, plus lot of focus on innovation and technological advances here in the country, that is going to lead us towards a real Viksit Bharat.
Thank you, Bhuvnesh. I think move from PLI to DLI, and that leading to the transformation in the manufacturing space. I think let's move now from manufacturing to analytics. And Sangeeta, you already presented some findings on how analytics are used to look at the competitiveness of states in terms of digital adoption. But let me talk about, based on your experience and the work that you've done in analytics, how can these data-driven insights actually provide meaningful information, meaningful insights to telecom operators, to policymakers, the entire ecosystem, to make more informed decisions and actually help in serving the underserved regions towards the journey to becoming a Viksit Bharat?
Absolutely, thank you. So quality of experience and quality of service is really at the heart of what we do, and we really believe that making informed decisions using data is at the heart of how telecom operators can improve the experience for citizens in India. And so as we think about this, it's really about network deployment and understanding what areas are underserved, which areas are not digitally connectivity ready, and understanding where you need to improve the quality of network to be prepared. The next part of it is really around network performance and real-time measurements. So let me give you two examples. So the first one is really around Hurricane Milton that happened in the US. What we were able to do was take a look at, on an hourly basis, what was the impact of the hurricane on network connectivity, outages, and the readiness of the networks. So that's a really important aspect of it. The second aspect is really around things like network performance for Olympics. So in Paris, the Olympics happened earlier this year, and we looked at the measurement of how the networks were performing and really trying to understand what needed to improve in the quality of networks for an optimal experience for the citizens. The last is really around informed policy decision making and understanding in order to make investments, you need to have good data and good quality data around the investments and the initiatives that you're promoting. And the last is really around tracking progress. And that to me is really about what's the starting point and what's the improvements as you use data to monitor and improve your systems as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Sangeeta. And maybe talking about networks, let me move towards open networks. And let me bring in Pankaj here. Open RAN or open radio access networks seem to be gaining a lot of traction as an alternative to traditional telecom infrastructure. And I would like to hear your views on how do open networking solutions integrate with Open RAN, and essentially what would be their impact on the telecom operators as they look to scale the networks and make them more efficient and cost effective.
Thank you, Naveen, for having me here. In fact, it's a very interesting discussion on digital infrastructure creation because we are already in the midway of digitization and digital infrastructure creation. And whatever is supposed to go digital is going digital at the moment as I speak. And whatever is left behind will definitely go digital. And as they say that if we are not digital, we will definitely not survive anymore. So when it comes to, you see, the government motto 10 years ago used to be, like Singh Saab also reiterated that we used to talk about roti, kapda and makan. Now it's, roti, kapda, makan and Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi has been added on top of this motto of roti, kapda and makan. So to develop digital infrastructure in a true sense, because we have already made some platforms, some advancement we have already made. The 5G we have done very well. 6G I think we will do much better than what we did in 5G. But the technology, the way the technology is progressing, we need innovation on top of the platform which we are making for digital infrastructure, like the BharatNet is one, the other mobile operators are creating other platforms. So innovation is the key to move forward. And innovation comes from creativity. And creativity you can only have when you have openness. So the open source is the key going forward. Not only in the open RAN, but in all sphere of digitization, we have to be open. Until the time we are close-ended, we are vendor locked in, we will not progress the way we want it to be progressed. So open networking, open RAN, open core are the key to progress further. So you've asked me a question on open RAN. So far we have seen RAN, which is the hardware and software vendor locked in, one vendor, one technology. Then when we ventured into the 4G, then we saw the RU is separated and DU and CU separated, and it is during the time of the 4G development when the disaggregation in the CU and DU started happening. When I talk about disaggregation, it's again an open mindset wherein you choose a white box hardware, you choose a different software partner, and then make it happen. So you have more flexibility in that, and you have a better TCO. Total cost of ownership reduces by 30%, 40%, and the flexibility increases by the 50% or maybe 100%. Then on 5, when we started with 5G, we started talking about virtualization of the networks or virtual RAN. So in that particular case, what we did is we kept only the radio equipment at the tower, and the CU and DU we put it back in the data center as a servers. So there are no hardware. Hardware we have eliminated. 75% of the hardware is eliminated. So your total cost has come down. The servers are not as costly as the dedicated technologies are concerned. So your total cost has come down by more than 50%. And then with the virtualization, you have many other advantages which we are reaping at the moment in 5G. And when we are talking about 6G standards and all, 6G is totally on open platform, RAN specifically if I talk about. And the network slicing is going to play a very, very key role, wherein in network slicing, we are going to share the resources. The one server will be put on to, 100 tasks at the same time, at the same given time for this 100 tasks at the same time plane. So there are definitely many benefits out of it. The openness. Openness brings you flexibility. Openness brings you innovation. Openness brings you removes the vendor lock-in, and openness reduces your cost. Virtualization will reduce your cost further. Scalability is in your hand. Uh, Automation is in your hand. You can sit at the data center and do everything. All orchestrations you can do sitting at one place and control the network, pan India network or the pan world network. Thank you.
Thank you, Pankaj. Let me move from open networks to outdoor networks. And let me bring in Femi, who's also come in from Dubai this morning. I hope you're doing okay, Femi. Hi. Thank you for joining. So India obviously is a complex market, especially the challenges that we have in deploying outdoor networks and how to reach areas, right? Densely populated areas. So with all the developments that we're seeing in next-gen technologies, how do we tackle some of these issues which are really to do with network congestion and in scaling some of these complex and hard to reach areas?
Thank you very much. Let me start off with a sort of different view. I think the Indian market has grown very significantly in the last 4 or 5 years. One would say thanks to COVID, and as a result, what the operators, the network operators did was they responded to that by providing a service. In return, by accident or design, they were able to lift tariffs, and the market has grown from 30 billion 5 years ago to, we're not far from 50 now. So in my opinion, network operators need to focus on impact, right? Can the network operators get the next 25 billion? That's another $2 in ARPU on average, let's say, in a year or 2 or 3. I think that should be the focus. It's not going to come from the last 100 million subscribers that we've not connected yet. That would be nice to have. Those are nice government initiatives, but ultimately does nothing for the top line or bottom line of the operators. The operators need to focus on impact, whether in the education sector, industry, healthcare, you name it, manufacturing. We talked earlier today about services sector, use AI effectively, and so on and so forth. Personally, I would like these conversations to move into that direction as opposed to the next village that needs to be connected, because I think we're there or thereabouts. You gave us huge numbers in India, 900 million broadband connections, over 1 billion mobile connections already. How do we, as an industry, and all participants here, you measure impact so greatly, providing Open RAN services. I don't think that we are, how far lower do you want to go? $2 to have more impact in the industry in ARPU? No, it's the opposite. We want to go higher. This brings me to my point. What does my company do to contribute? We have to help the network operators get more specific, provide more differentiated solutions, provide indoor services, provide better quality of service, use better materials, sustainable materials, you mentioned, higher quality, and reverse a bit of a trend that has been very, very cost-focused. I completely agree with Nesh. China did that and realized it had to change quickly. I think we're just about at that point in India. And companies like ours are starting to look to how we differentiate in that space. Otherwise, it's kill or be killed in terms of just cost and product services. As engineers, once you adopt that mindset, then you can start thinking, all right, where are we going? How do we use AI, my apologies. One of the things we talked about in this industry for a long time, I'll give you an example that struck me the other day. 5G networks, I live in the Gulf country, only 3% of the cell sites, and they're 90% 5G enabled, only 3% have more than 50% traffic load. What that says is they're completely inefficient networks. And we've talked about how we move load around, how we move capacity around a network. Let's go focus there instead of building another 2 sites for those 3 houses that we're not covered, right? And that's where the difference comes in terms of partnering with the operators, sitting down, planning, design, using quality products, and so on and so forth. I think that shift has arrived. I think this is the right moment. We're excited to be here, and we're working very closely with network operators in trying to adopt this new mindset, as opposed to just numbers, big quality. There's so much more value in finding that extra dollar of ARPU, which is going to come from differentiation in specific sectors, than from another 50 million people.
Thank you. I think very important point. It's really about making that differentiation to provide more value-driven services, more of the value curve. Now, having spoken about next-gen technologies, having spoken about the future of Viksit Bharat, how do we bring it all together in a public-private partnership? I think, and what are some of the use cases at play in that context? But let me start with you, Manojji. I mean, how do you look at all of this integrating together in a digital platform? From your vantage point at DIPA, how do you see that the entire industry, the entire digital infrastructure industry, actually coming together and contributing towards building a more integrated platform towards our journey to be a Viksit Bharat?
So by the way, it is very interesting question and it is very close to my heart. So when I talk in my previous session towards convergence of services through you can say digital sandbox or whatever we say. So when this, I will say that the history of DIPA will also come into this discussion. When this association was formed 12 years back, it was the Association of Telecom Tower Infrastructure Providers. And at a time we realized that telecom is nothing but a communication, but it is a connectivity. And then we changed the name of Telecom Tower Infrastructure Provider Associations as a Digital Infrastructure Providers Association. And from there the journey started. And since we have started this year, we have actually conceptualized a version called DIPA 2.0. And what is DIPA 2.0 really probably will excite you. Up till now, we were actually focusing towards convergence of services, which the service providers will do. And we being an infrastructure provider are responsible to provide the convergence of infrastructure to provide those convergence of services. What I mean to say is, now the infrastructure provided by our infrastructure providers are not limited to capability of providing only digital connectivity, but it also provides anything which requires power and space. So to an analogous word which I come to my top of my mind while I was thinking, it is a digital cold storage. The way it is a cold storage, stores anything which it wants a complete environment. It is a digital cold storage for the infrastructure. So whatever kind of infrastructure do you want, we are the custodian for that. We means my members. They will host your electrical system, they will provide you the space and they will keep it conditioned with the air conditioner, and then you provide whatever kind of end services to the customer, be it be digital connectivity, be it be, you can say e-health, be it be e-education, be it be EV charging, be it be government services, citizen-centric services, whatever it is. So it is that type of digital sandbox. To do so, what the question Naveen has asked to me is, what we are doing at DIPA is now we are backward, in a mood of backward integration. And essentially what we are doing, you might have heard the word called street furniture. What is the difference between a street furniture and a street pole? What is the difference between a street furniture and a metro pole? What is a street furniture and a telecom tower? What all I named, if put together in one box, is called a street furniture. And street furniture is an infrastructure which will provide multiple utilities to the citizen of the country. One structure standing providing CCTVs, providing street light, providing digital connectivity, providing EV charging, providing emergency health services, etc., etc. This is called street furniture. So accordingly, we started our backward integration and starting putting them all under one umbrella, which is DIPA, and helping them to create an infrastructure which is capable to host all these services into one structure. Not only it will consolidate the services, but it will also better off the skyline of the country. Rather than having multiple structures around the cities, it is a full digital sandbox. What another role which DIPA is doing, probably which very important to know. It is very good to discuss in this room, but what happens when it goes to the ground? And DIPA played a very, very vital role with the help of the Department of Telecom. We were able to form a national level committee which will incubate these ideas and then enable the policies creation and then the policy adoption at a state level. Try and understand that this infrastructure falls into the land which is a state subject, it is not a central subject. So it is only with the help of the government we are able to align their last mile policies, which is at a Gram Panchayat level, that they are able to host this infrastructure in their piece of land and allow a, you can say, conducive framework in which it is permitted. To do so, there is a national level committee which DIPA is participating in, apprising government the challenges and resolution for that. Then there is a state level committee with the chief secretary holds, in which DIPA is contributing their input that in our thoughts when we are progressing, what are the challenges being asked. This is being done almost a monthly basis. And then there is a district level committee which is chaired by the district magistrate, in which DIPA is contributing to identify the challenges and provide a resolution to the members. So this way, one side is the policy advocacy, other side is the incubation, third side is the integration of the services. This is called DIPA 2.0. This way we are trying to support an ecosystem which will definitely be, I could say, first in the concept, in terms of concept in the world, not in India. And definitely we will be putting another, you can say landmark, the way we have done 2 decades back when telecom sharing model came and it was first in the world, and our case studies were the case studies for Harvard. And I'm very, very sure this, what we said, convergence of services and then digital consolidation into digital sandbox will become another case study for Harvard. And I see that 2047 is far away. We will be achieving much sooner than that.
Thank you, Manojji. That was very inspiring in terms of the next version of DIPA 2.0 and how that's going to create digital infrastructure in a box, in a sandbox, and what that would mean in terms of delivery of services. Let's move on to how, from RateTED's perspective, Anand, if you could give me your thoughts on how the private sector can play an important role, whether it's private players, private industry, whether it's the telecom operators, whether it's the telecom infrastructure providers, how can they play a more effective role in expanding the country's digital infrastructure and improving the overall quality of services?
See, RailTel works mostly on the collaborative models. So when we launched our retail broadband services, we started collaborating with the local cable operators or the access network providers. So that was the concept of RailTel. This is we started this as a model, and it is successful, and having more than 6,000 such partners or such local cable operators who are distributing our FTTH services across India and most of the villages, you can say, rural areas. So private players play a very important role. Recently, we have partnered with one organization to build around 100 edge data centers in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, having combined capacity of 20 megawatt. And this year we are planning to build 5 such data centers. And over the next 4-5 years, we will complete our 100 edge data centers. give these services to all such places. And these are mostly covering the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And same happened with the Wi-Fi in the stations. We collaborated with the private partners to have all the infrastructure in place and to start the services. And same way, we are looking for more such models or spreading these models to proliferate internet at the most of the rural areas. Right now, we are fourth. We would like to become first in next 2-3 years in the rural broadband penetration. Same way, we would like to increase the infrastructure in the stations also. See, all these infrastructure is okay, but when the infrastructure is not being utilized, then it gets wasted or the entire infra loses its value. So we have only 2-3 services which are widely used. One is Aadhaar, second is UPI. So I think we need more such services to utilize this data infrastructure or all the infrastructure. We have mobile connectivity, we have broadband penetration, but services are still missing. As sir said, government needs to go to the each household. So I think these kind of services are required now. So we are now thinking to spread to this solution or the services part of infrastructure also by having these data centers.
Some examples of collaboration that you see on the private sector side. So one, are there any use cases that come to mind where you've seen this collaboration working, whether in India or from a global lens? Femi, if you could talk about that. And second is a little bit of a forward-looking view on what some of the priorities should be as we look ahead. Of course, Manoj has laid out the vision from a deeper perspective, but looking at from a private sector perspective, what do you see as some of the key priorities, and where do you see this leading to our journey towards building that digital infrastructure that is aligned to where we want to be in 2047? So maybe a little bit of a forward-looking view, as also giving some use cases from a public-private partnership standpoint. So let me start with you, Femi, and then move on to others as well.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll be quick. What does the government do? One is regulation. Give me clear the regulations. Make it as simple as possible. Right-of-way issues, and so on. If you look at it from the point of view of a network operator, what are their two biggest assets? Street furniture and equipment out there in the field, and spectrum. Here is a thought, right? I reckon every one of the mobile operators in India spends $1 billion to $2 billion in spectrum a year. Put that together, you're talking 10 billion plus or minus a year. That's money that KPMG and the like can sit with the government, sit with the network operators, and say, hold on, how do we use this money in a more targeted manner instead of just income for the government? And think of all the industries you can impact with $10 billion, right? Every year, going for 30 years. It's a 30-year commitment in some cases. So if I had to say, or were an advisor, I would say, let's sit down and look at that. What does it do in healthcare? What does it do in, I'm reading a book by Tony Blair right now, digital IDs, and get the network operators to invest in that, make some commitments there, and that opens up a heck of a lot of other sectors. And let's not talk about flying taxis and remote surgery. They have no impact. They're nice buzzwords and they're catchphrases, but very little impact in the short term, at least in a country like India. So to me, I would look at that. I'll look at simple, boring things like, okay, if I give you back your $1 million, $1 billion, I need you to invest in ID, healthcare, mining, manufacturing. If you look at the countries that are most successful in the 5G space, Japan, Korea, they didn't pay very much for the license. There were beauty contests and made commitments in exchange for the license. They made commitments to the government. I live in the UAE. Just think about this for a second. They got their licenses free. Etisalat, a country of 9 million people, 50% or 60% market share, many of whom are actually not the highest paying. So only based on 2 or 3 million subscribers, they make so much ARPU, they can go and buy 14% of Vodafone Group. That tells you that when there's a targeted use of money, it can make an impact. For the UAE, it's very strategic to have that kind of influence. In India, it will be something different. So that's how I would see public partnership going. One is regulatory, the other is look at that amount of money and say, let's partner on how to spend it. It's not just income and squeezing the balance sheets of Airtel and Jio and the like. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sangeeta, Pankaj, Bhuvnesh, you want to add?
One, giving priority to first responders and ensuring that they have priority on the network. Why that works really well is because we've got the combination of private and public. We have AT&T, who is really partnering with the federal government to make sure that the infrastructure is there. And then second, public being able to make sure that the networks are prioritized. And so as we look forward, I think a few things are really important. So you combined a couple of questions, so I want to address that. So 5G rollout and progress and continuing on with that is important. Making sure that rural connectivity is combined with urban connectivity as well, and that we increase and make sure that the digital cities are ready and the smart cities are ready. And in terms of what should be on the mind of India moving forward, it's a few things. One is network congestion. With the importance and the adoption of 5G and mobile networks, it's important that we keep our eye on network congestions. And then bridging the gap between urban and rural is really important. There's still a pretty big connectivity gap between the cities and rural areas. And then the last is focusing on network sustainability, and that becomes really important. India has a lot of initiatives around sustainability and improving the environment, and making sure the networks are efficient and running in that capacity is really important for the country as well. Thank you.
Pankaj.
Yeah, to add to this, the private-public partnership is the key. We have seen the exponential growth in the banking sector when the banks were privatized. Then we have seen exponential growth happening in the telecom sector when telecom sector was privatized. So public-private partnership has to come in all departments, all spheres of life, except for a few mission-critical spaces like defense or maybe space. Barring that, rest all, I promote that the private-public partnership should be there, because we can share the resources of what government has created. The private parties can share those resources, bring in efficiency into the system, and thirdly, government should be made free to form a role of regulator or maybe the policy maker. And leave the implementation and operation to the private parties. Thank you.
Bhuvnesh.
Yeah, just final thoughts. While our Make in India initiative is now transforming itself into a Make in India for the World initiative, so we are now not just focusing on making India and consuming within the country, we are focusing on exporting to many countries outside. And it's not, we are no longer a spice exporting country. We are exporting technology, we are exporting world-class products now. If we have to compete and make ourselves equivalent to any developed nation in the world, we have to up our game a bit. And that means that we have to upskill our manpower. In many cases, we have to reskill our manpower. And maybe we have to expand the PPP to PPAP partnership, where I call it public-private and academia partnership. And when I say academia, it is not just Indian academia, it's global. So we have to collaborate globally, work on the new technologies together with the world, and make sure that we are contributing towards the overall technology growth in terms of standards, in terms of new developments, in terms of any new initiative that world is taking. India has to shine as a star in the entire world map as a technology contributor. And that will lead us to the Viksit Bharat vision that we are having. Thank you.
Any final words, Manojji, before we wrap up?
So the final word is that come under one umbrella, maybe DIPA 2.2 or maybe some other umbrella, but The final word is, it is a cross-sectoral sharing. Please remember this word. In any infrastructure or any, you can say, services, the infrastructure cost is almost half of that, sometime more than that. And what you are also saying, that majority of the infrastructure is remaining unutilized. So the call of the day today is not only share your infrastructure, but sweat your infrastructure. That is what the final word which I wanted to say.
Thank you. I just want to see if there are any questions, one or two questions that I can take from the audience. Yeah, please.
My question is to Mr. Sachdev. Sir, I am from a manufacturing background, and I used to head Wistron, the iPhone factory in Bangalore, before that Flex in India. Question I have is, sir, when you manufacture with Indian companies now, and HFCL is doing that, for example, not taking any names, what is your experience, manufacturing at Indian companies vis-a-vis multinationals?
Good question. Let me give you a quick background. I've been associated with HFCL for over 25 years now. And when I joined the company, I joined as one of the hardware engineers in HFCL's old generation of R&D we used to have. And we realized over time that competing with the world is difficult, especially in those days when technology was fast moving and we were not able to keep up the pace as a country. HFCL started into manufacturing business. Today we stand one of the top 10 fiber cable manufacturers in the world, and probably number one in India. We are exporting to more than 40 countries today. In 2017, our chairman's vision, we thought that let's start the R&D once again. And I became the seed initiative of that R&D. I started with 5 people. Today we are more than 250. We started with 4 product lines, and we decided if we are doing it in India, let everything be in India, including all the manufacturing. We did not tie up with any of the foreign manufacturing house. We decided let's start and grow the ecosystem within the country. Initial 3 years were really difficult, especially that time when COVID hit. Manufacturing in India was becoming really difficult, but we never gave up hope. Today, if we talk about 2024, 6 years in the development and manufacturing, I'm really proud to say that HFCL has supplied over 1 million equipment across 40 countries, India, of course, being number 1. If you roam around anywhere in the country, 80% of telecom towers would see at least one HFCL supplied equipment on top, and that is all designed, developed, manufactured 100% in India. We are now exporting to 40 plus countries, as I mentioned. We are targeting many of the other nations who are developed, and we are competing with all the biggies in the world. And I am proud to say that 100% of the equipment that we export today is made in India by Indian manufacturers only. 80% of the ecosystem is now ready to do everything except semiconductor. And that is the next area I believe that we should take a leap in. And once we get hold of semiconductor, I think India will become an unbeatable force. Thank you.
Okay, I think any final questions? Otherwise, we're on the hour. So I want to thank all my panelists for a very engaging session. I'm quite confident after hearing all of you that we're just not building rural infrastructure. We're actually building bridges. Bridges between rural and urban, bridges between opportunity and access, bridges between aspiration and achievement. The future of Viksit Bharat is just not about technology. It's about all of us. And united by a common purpose and driven by a belief that together we can develop a nation that is secure, prosperous, inclusive, and truly exceptional. Once again, thank you for being here today. Thank you all for joining. And let's go and build the future together.
Thank you so much to all the respected panelists here. I would like to extend our thank you. I would request our moderator, Mr. Naveen Agarwal, to please distribute the mementos to the respectable panelists. Kindly gather for a group photo.